And then inside the method, I need to put in my statements. So as you can see here, now this method is showing us an error. So let's actually hover over the error area and see what's this error. This method must return a result of type float. Okay, so the return type of our method is float, and we must return a value of type float. Okay, inside the method, I just need to create a variable of type float. Okay, and the name of my variable is result, and I want to actually subtract the value of the num1 variable by the value of the num2 variable. Okay, and I can actually return this result variable. Okay, the return type of our method is float. The name of our method is divide two numbers, and my method is going to actually accept two arguments. The first argument is of type float, and the name of my first argument is num1, and my second argument is of type float, and the name of my argument is num2. And then inside the method, I actually created a variable of type float, and the name of my variable is result, and then I assigned the result of this operation here to my variable. Okay, num1 divided by num2. And then in line 56, I returned this result variable. Okay, so this result variable is of type float, and we must return a value of type float from this method. Okay, because the return type of this method is float. And then I want to actually call this method from the main method. So here, because this method returns a value of type float, I can actually directly output the value of that method to the console. So I just need to type in here system.out.println, and then inside the parentheses, I can just refer to the name of my method, divide two numbers, and then we need to actually pass values to this method. So the first value is, for example, 30, and the second value is, for example, 15. Okay, and then at the end of my statement, I need to put in a semicolon. So now if I run my project, as you can see, this is the value that is outputted to the console. Okay, so 30 divided by 15 is 2. Okay, and then I can actually assign the returned value of this method to another value of type float. So I can just type in here float. Okay, and the name of my variable is result, and then I can assign this method to my variable because this method returns a value of type float. So we can actually assign that value to our method. So I just need to refer to the name of my method, divide two numbers, and the first value is, for example, 20, and the second value is, for example, 2. Okay, and then I need to put in a semicolon at the end of my statement, and I want to output the value of this result variable to the console. So I just need to type in here system.out.println, and then inside the parentheses, I just need to refer to the name of my variable, and then I need to put a semicolon at the end of my method. So now if I run my project, as you can see, this is the value that is outputted to the console, number 10. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And in line 23, we are actually outputting that value to the console. Okay, so this value is the result of execution of this line of code here. Okay, so now let me show you another example about methods. So I want to create another method here. So I just need to type in here static, and the return type of my method is float, and the name of my method is subtract two numbers. Okay, and then I want to specify that my method is going to have arguments. So inside the round brackets, I need to put my arguments. So the data type of my first argument is float, and the name of my argument is num_a, and the data type of my second argument is float, and the name of my argument is num_b, and then I need to open and close my method by using an opening curly brace followed by a closing curly brace. Okay, so inside the method, I can put my statements. So as you can see here, it's now showing us an error. So let's actually hover over the error area and see what's the error. This method must return a result of type float. So as you can see here, we need to return a value of type float because the return type of this method is float. So there is another important point here that I want to let you know. As you can see here, the name of this method is actually the same as the name of this method, okay? So in Java, we can actually have different methods, but with different arguments, okay? This method has int arguments, but this method has float arguments, okay? The data type of the arguments of this method is int, and the data type of the arguments of this method is float, okay? So we can actually have different methods, but with different arguments, okay? So we can actually have different methods with the same name, but with different arguments, okay? We cannot actually have different methods with the same name and with the same arguments, okay? We can actually have, for example, another method with the same name, but without no arguments, okay? So this is a very important point about actually creating methods in Java, okay? So now I want to actually create a variable here with the float data type, float result, and then I can actually assign a value to my variable. So now I want to actually assign the result of subtraction of the value of the num_a variable from the value of the num_b variable, okay? So I just need to type in here num_a minus num_b, okay? And then I need to put in a semicolon at the end of my statement. And here I can actually return the result, okay? And then I need to put in a semicolon at the end of my statement again. So from the main method, I can actually call this method, okay? So inside the main method, I can just type in here system.out.println, and then inside the method, I can actually refer to the name of my method because this method returns a value of type float. We can directly output the returned value of this method to the console, okay? So inside the parentheses, I can refer to the name of my method, subtract two numbers. As you can see here, it's now showing us two options. So as you can see, these two methods have the same name, but different arguments, okay? So I want to choose this method that has arguments with the float data type, okay? So the value of the first argument is, for example, 2.5, and the value of the second argument is 0.5, okay? And then I need to put in a semicolon at the end of my statement. So as you can see here, it's now showing us a nasty error, okay? So let's actually hover over the error area and see in the type method is not applicable for the arguments double. So as I said earlier in this section, you must actually put the F letter at the end of the numbers in order to make those numbers float numbers, okay? Otherwise, the Eclipse thinks that we are actually using double numbers, okay? So we must actually put the F letter at the end of our numbers, okay? Now the error is gone, okay? And as you can see, this is the value that is outputted to the console, okay? So 2.5 minus 0.5 is 2.0, okay? So I think that's enough for methods. And if you have any questions, please post a discussion in the course, and then I'll try my best to answer your questions. And thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.